で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているエキスしたい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているしたい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているで読み直しているエキスしたい人で読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直している
Welcome to the city of the unwritten. A city that's given so much. A city of people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. A city of makers, entrepreneurs, musicians, artists. A city of laughter, memories, and people who will welcome others in with a cup of heartwarming, handmade coffee. A city of people, young and old, working together. People who explore, live, and grow together. But what makes this place special? Being listed year after year as one of the best places to raise a family. Maybe because we have a community recognized for its safe neighborhoods and revered for its low unemployment. A city where adventure is everywhere you look, where you can pioneer your own story. We've opened a new page to write on for the generations ahead. Welcome to Bismarck. Come write your story.
Good morning, 1 million cups. That was a rude awakening. You good up there, Tyler? Okay, I'm gonna hold it out here, I think, or maybe anyway. Hi, everyone. While they figure out the lights up there, I'll just let you know that my name is Lakin Ani. I am Advocacy Director at the North Dakota Women's Business Center, and I am really excited to lead you on the path of leadership today. Maybe it's better over here. So, how many of you, this is your first time at 1 million cups? Fantastic. 3 of you. Excellent. Round of applause. Yeah. So not only are we going to talk about leadership, it's also going to be a rave later. So this strobe light is a bonus for you. Congratulations and welcome to the party. I bet you didn't know what you were getting into. Tony, will you click on the presentation so I can advance the slides? Cool, thanks. So this is a small and mighty crew, and we rely a lot on volunteer support, as well as some financial backing from local community stakeholders. So if you see any logos up here on the screen, on the bottom, we've got threefold National Day Calendar and Bismarck-Mandan Chamber EDC, if that's hard for you to see. But shake their hand, tell them thank you, because it's through the support of folks like this that help us continue to make or keep the entrepreneurial community of Bismarck-Mandan alive and thriving. Tony. It's me, not you. I didn't turn it on. Okay, so here we have a few other sponsors. Thank them when you see them. Anybody National Day Calendar followers? Can you tell me what it is? We're about to find out. Live Creative Day. Do we have graphic designers in the audience? Anything like that? Oh, great. Good. Anyway, do something creative today. Happy National Day every day. What is 1 Million Cups? It's a free weekly program that we offer through a partnership with the Kauffman Foundation, which is housed out of Kansas City, Kansas. And we're part of a national network of 1 Million Cups chapters. We were, I haven't checked for a while, but we were the first in North Dakota and also one of the largest in the country. So that's something to be proud of. The big takeaway here, why do we exist? We're here to answer the question, can we change the face of our startup community over 1 million cups of coffee? We think that's true, and we do that by gathering together, sharing ideas, and taking feedback from the audience in order to improve, move forward, innovate. We've added community organizations to that because there's a lot of resources available to grow not only your business, but also your personal professional development and other ways to get involved in the community. So we've expanded that scope a bit. Okay, so for those of you who have never been, we'll have 8 to 10 minute presentation by a couple of wonderful people this morning, and then at the end you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. If you are uncomfortable handling this lovely orange cup microphone, you can ask a question on our Facebook feed through the live chat there, or you can hashtag 1MCND on Twitter, and we'll ask your question that way. Any community announcements? I think there's a few. The Downtowners Street Fair is coming up. I don't see any of them in the audience. However, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and September 17th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Come on down to downtown Bismarck, support our local businesses. There are hundreds, I would say, vendors available. I've heard a lot about popcorn balls. Come check it out and support your local entrepreneurs. Careful with this guy's hat.
My name is Michael Fink. Let's just do it. My name is Michael Fink. I'm with Silicon Plains, and tonight is our long-anticipated, much overdue grand opening of our new office, 2219 East Main Avenue. We're going to have a charity giveaway, door prizes. DJ Pauly is going to be spinning some records live. Have our ribbon cutting, cheesesteaks, beverages for all, and new building tours. So I hope you are all invited, and I hope you all come out and celebrate with us today.
Awesome. Thank you. 4 to 10 p.m. today. The charity giveaway is a 50-inch 4K TV. Football season. So. Okay. Do we have anybody from downtown Mandan? No. Okay, so we have a Downtown Places and Spaces tour happening over across the river in Mandan. You can join them for the tour and some networking on September 22nd. You can register online by September 20th at cityofmandan.com/register, or you can give Ellen a call over there as well. Okay, that's the reason we're here. Today's presenter, we have Mark Wagner and Rachel Brash here to talk about the University of Mary's Leadership ND program. How many of you identify as a leader? Just a handful. Okay. This is where audience participation comes in, so I'm going to ask for you to shout. Use your outside voices, okay? One word, what does leadership mean to you? Ross. Forward thinking. Serve. Collaboration. Very good. Say again? Vision. Anybody else? Cool. Okay, well, thank you for that. That was just a primer for what's to happen afterwards when we're all asking incredible questions. So leadership drives all of us. We are all, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, we're all leaders in some way, shape, or form. Whether you have a family and you are parenting children, or maybe you are the sibling tapped to handle your parents' affairs towards end of life, or maybe you are the person in your group of friends who decides what restaurant to eat at, because that is a question nobody wants to really answer ever. So you're leaders in any capacity, whether you know it or not. So I think today's topic is relevant, and I am really excited to hear and learn more from Mark Wagner and Rachel Brash. So without further ado, why don't you come on up?
Thanks, Lincoln.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, 1 million cuppers. Howdy, you Mary team. See you guys. Everybody, thanks for coming. Million Cuppers far away, Evan, Janya, we wish you could be here today. They have some other things going on, Rachel. I'll let you kind of be front and center. I'm Mark Wagner. I'm the Director of Workforce Development Operations out at the University of Mary. I'm joined today by Miss Rachel Brash. She's our Executive Director for Online. And today we're going to talk a little bit about workforce development at the University of Mary, and then talk a lot about Leadership North Dakota and what that looks like at the University of Mary. So as the Director of Workforce Development, I often get asked, what do you do? Or so you help students get jobs. And I guess in a roundabout way, through our business partnerships, we help drive some of the curriculum at the University of Mary. But the University of Mary Workforce Development Department exists to provide affordable training for established professionals, right? So we have a myriad of business partners, and we serve them in a couple of ways. The first way that the Workforce Development Department serves our business partners is we provide those face-to-face trainings. So those are focused on soft skill and leadership, right? So I know Lakin asked, who are all leaders? I think you are all leaders, right? And effective leadership, right? We think at the University of Mary is servant-hearted. So we want our effective leaders to have effective communication skills, to be able to handle conflict appropriately, handle peer-to-manager transitions, delegation, you name it. We're focused on the upskilling and reskilling of the workforce here in North Dakota and the surrounding region. And so how does that play in to University of Mary Online, right? What does that look like? So we offer our non-credit bearing trainings to established professionals for our business partners, but then we also offer free scholarship opportunities for our business partners to come complete undergraduate and graduate degrees at the University of Mary. And that's kind of where Rachel comes in. Rachel is our Executive Director of Online, as I said, and so she oversees all of our undergrad and graduate online students, the retention, the enrollment, the sequencing, all of that, all of our outward facing. She oversees my department. She's kind of our resident expert. She's going on year 14 at the University of Mary. She's been around the block, and she knows the University of Mary like the back of her hand. And so, right, that's great, Mark, but what does that mean for Leadership North Dakota? We just wanted to kind of frame that up because the two entities are separate but one. And the University of Mary is the conduit for Leadership North Dakota. We're focused on servant leadership. And to talk a little bit about our history for Leadership North Dakota and to frame that up for us, I will turn it over to Rachel.
Thank you. You can keep it.
Okay.
All right. So University of Mary itself is a relatively new university by standards, right? We were founded in 1959, which is relatively recent, right, when you look at higher education. And ultimately, it was founded to do something in a very North Dakotan way. It was founded to provide practical and life-forming education, right? You have to be able to go get a job, but you also have to be employer ready. That's more than just a skill set, right? We want you to do well at very technical skills and be able to be successful that way, but you really do have to be a part of the community. And so workforce development has always been foundational to who we are. And yet, as we progressed through, what we found was that it was always a job on top of what our primary job was, right? And so I teach in the Gary Tharaldson School of Business. And I also do workforce development, right? That's part of curriculum development and all of that. We, in enrollment management, we would do certain things and say, oh yes, and we also work on business partnerships. And so what happened just a few short years ago is Energy Transfer Partners came in and said, we know that this upskilling, reskilling, these types of things that Mark just talked about are not in themselves all that difficult to do. A lot of organizations can train on peer-to-supervisor delegation, succession planning, conflict management, effective communication, all of those. But do they actually have the bandwidth to do it? Right? That is probably the number one thing that we come across as we talk to organizations. And so Energy Transfer Partners said, we're going to fund a department for you. We're going to get you started. And we're now self-funded, right? But this allowed us to have a staff, a team that just focuses on the relationship management, because we, as a partner in the community, can't do that, right? Without always doing that. And we're all responsible for it. But Mark and his team are really responsible for getting out there and finding out what's going on. How can we help you out? And so on top of that, there's Leadership North Dakota. And Leadership North Dakota is not something that only North Dakota has. Montana has it, Oklahoma has it. It itself is its own nonprofit, right? So it's a nonprofit housed within the University of Mary, and this really is an executive leadership program. Now, when I talk about that, what does that actually mean? What it means is that it's an executive leadership program that's meant to build on other programs, right, across the state. There's chamber leadership programs, there's women's leadership programs, there's lots of these different things. It's complementary. So it really needs to be looked at as a way for somebody to be able to get really good experience across the state of North Dakota, learn about different industries, different sectors, network with other people in a really meaningful way, and create that peer mentorship opportunity. And so I think Mark is going to be sharing some specifics of what that all looks like. But Leadership North Dakota is a newer program to the state. But we are going into our fourth cohort here and would just love to be able to talk to you more about it today, about what that could mean for you and your organization.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. So like Rachel said, what is Leadership North Dakota? Leadership North Dakota, if you walk away today going, what did I just listen to? Workforce development, we are focused on upskilling and reskilling the workforce, and Leadership North Dakota is North Dakota's premier executive leadership institute. So we follow a 6-month cohort model. Over those 6 months, we'll travel across the state of North Dakota. We'll explore our curriculum that we've developed at the University of Mary specifically for Leadership North Dakota. We have formulated networking opportunities for our cohort members, both within the cohort and externally. And then we have an opportunity for our cohort to connect with industry leaders across the state of North Dakota. And so what does that look like? Normal session, like I said, we'll meet once a month for 2 days, 6 months out of the year. We have our application process. We have a virtual orientation in December, and then we run January to June all across the state of North Dakota. And we try to pull leaders from all industries, from all corners of the state, to have a really robust and dynamic sampling so that our leaders are interacting with like-minded people and also people who might be encountering similar, like-minded people who might be encountering similar things in a different setting, and then people who are unlike them in almost every way. And a normal session, we'll show up and who we are. Right? These are our pillars of our programming for Leadership North Dakota. We focus on the elevation of skills. And so we talked a little bit about that with workforce development, but we have a curricular focus. If you look up on the screen to the right, our right to the left of Governor Burgum, you might see two familiar faces. Anybody recognize those two people? Evan and Janya, nobody recognizes them? Okay. Well, Evan and Janya, right, they're usually the MCs here at 1 Million Cups. And our curriculum is focused on the sequential and upskilling of leadership skills. Right? And so we want to elevate leaders, we want them to become more effective, more efficient, and we want them to have servant hearts. And I can't think of two better ambassadors to help us in our facilitation than Evan and Janya. Any of you that have been to 1 Million Cups that have interacted with Evan and Janya in any capacity know exactly what I mean. Right? And so Evan and Janya actually help with the facilitation of all of our curriculum at all 6 sessions for Leadership North Dakota. So once we've approached elevating your skills, we want to expand your network. We provide networking opportunities. As I said, we want to pull from every single industry across the state of North Dakota, and we want to have leaders from every corner of the state. We don't want to just have one sampling. Why is that important? Our theory is if we have leaders who are expanding on their skills in this industry, if we have an engineer from Williston, right, in the Bakken, interacting with somebody who is day-to-day working in government here in Bismarck, is interacting with someone from agriculture on the eastern half of the state, right, a couple things are going to happen. One, they're going to expand their network, right? They're going to get to know one another. They're going to talk. They're going to interact. They're going to share with each other their leadership experiences. And what we find, what's really rewarding for Rachel and I is when we're working with these cohorts, right, you see leaders that say, oh, man, some of these things are universal truths, right? And some of these things are unique to me. And so those leaders have the opportunity to interact with one another and to work through some of those things. We provide problem-solving activities, fishbowl activities. So we're really excited about the expansion of networks and the networking opportunities that we provide, right? The last piece of our programming pillars is connection with leaders. And so that's not only happening within the cohort, that's not only cohort member to cohort member, that is cohort member to industry leader across the state. So, right, we will travel to 6 cities across the state of North Dakota. In each city, we have a classroom session where we're going to focus on curriculum. We're going to have networking opportunities for our cohort members themselves, and then we get out in the community for hands-on learning opportunities, right? And that can look like a number of things. That can look like Mr. Gary Tharaldson coming and talking and having a fireside chat with our cohort members. That could be us touring Microsoft and talking with some of their team leads about empathetic leadership. That could be us having a panel of chamber members and community partners from Watford City before we go out to an oil rig to hear what's going on in Watford City. And again, we have this idea that if we are upskilling servant leaders across the state of North Dakota, understanding their interconnectedness, that we can push North Dakota forward. We not only act as a catalyst to build upon other leadership opportunities for our cohort members, but then they can go and continue to grow through their professional life and through their work experiences. And so that kind of brings us to where we are right now and where we're headed. So as I said, right, we're really focused on our upskilling, our curriculum, our networking opportunities, and connection with leaders. And so we kind of have 3 things that we're really, really excited about for Leadership North Dakota as we move into cohort 4. The first being our alumni committee. So we mentioned that we have authentic connection for our cohort members with one another, with industry leaders from around the state of North Dakota, and now there's actually an organic appetite from our previous cohort members to start an alumni committee so that they can remain connected with one another, so that they can continue to problem solve, so that they can continue to connect about their day-to-day lives and their work lives, but also to serve North Dakota and to remain connected. So we're very excited about that. That's kicked off right now. They're currently working through some servant leadership opportunities for their group, as well as some programming for continuing to expand their network. The second thing we're really excited about for Leadership North Dakota is the connection with Rising Leadership North Dakota. So the difference between the two is Leadership North Dakota is our Executive Leadership Institute, right, 6 months out of the year. Rising Leadership North Dakota is a camp that we put on out at the University of Mary each summer. We have a couple very important business partners that come alongside us to have a really dynamic opportunity for those kids to expand not only their leadership skills, but to get a little bit of real life experience in the business world, in the medical field, and beyond. And we have some connection here with the Bismarck community, but we're really excited because for the first time we're going to be able to integrate our executive leadership Leadership North Dakota, and our rising leaders, our high school students in the state of North Dakota, and they're going to be able to come together on the campus of the University of Mary here this June. Last and certainly not least, registration. As Rachel mentioned, we are moving into cohort 4, so applications will open up October 1 on our website. They will close November 1. Upon the close, our search committee will review all the applications, we'll make our selections, and by November 14, we're going to be off and running. We'll have that virtual orientation, like I said, in December, and then starting January 18th and 19th here in Bismarck, North Dakota, Leadership North Dakota will be kicked off for cohort 4. With that, I think that's kind of us in a nutshell. I will bring Lakin back up here and turn it over to her.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Why don't you have a seat over there and we'll start the questions. I need a brave audience member to run our mics today. Look, it's Ross. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Okay, so we've got about a half an hour for questions today. And the reason why I was tapped to lead this conversation with you is we, as you mentioned, host a women's leadership program. And I think it's absolutely necessary that we have multiple options for leaders so we can grow a diverse group. You're right. Looking back on this program 10 years from now, what does success look like?
Success, I think from my perspective, is the ability for people to really thrive. We have big opportunities in North Dakota. I think everybody in this room knows that, right? But we also have some big challenges. Workforce is the #1 issue for most organizations, right? Raise your hand if workforce is not your #1 issue right now, right? And what success looks like is that we are helping to form individuals who can contribute in a greater way to their community and feel empowered to do so. That's what it really looks like from my perspective. And we all know that education can happen in different ways. The University of Mary's primary function is for degrees, right? That's what we do. But education happens outside of just a traditional setting, and I think that Leadership North Dakota fills a really important role in that, in creating these really good opportunities for people to grow beyond what they thought they could and feel really great that they are contributing in a positive manner within their family lives, their friends, their workplace, and their community.
Sure. Mark, anything to add?
Yeah, just to echo what Rachel said, I think North Dakota really is a powder keg when it comes to industry. Right now, and even looking back to our history, we're on the cutting edge of agriculture, of energy, very robust business and entrepreneurial spirit here in the state of North Dakota. And so I think success, like Rachel said, is just giving people the tools to thrive and connecting our leaders to make sure that we're good stewards of the resources that we have and the opportunities that we have in the state of North Dakota now and into the future.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Mike, your mic's not on. So do you want to pull it out of there? I think push the button. Is it on?
It's on. Okay, there we go.
Okay, great. There we go. Thanks.
No
Tech
problem.
team. The
Okay.
tech team was knocking off some rust today.
A couple questions. One of them, when it comes to the Leadership ND program, who should apply? Like what, maybe describe what you, in your minds, think would be sort of the ideal candidate, or what are some of those qualities?
Do you want to take that, or should I?
I'll turn it over to you, and then I'll maybe add anything that...
I'll tell you a little bit about our previous members, because that, I think, will help show. We have had elected officials, lawyers, founders of companies, high-level managers, and we've also had individuals who are more mid-level and maybe don't have as much on their resume. That doesn't mean that they have any less potential. And I think that we in Leadership North Dakota look for that range, right? We don't want the individual who's done every single leadership program in the world. Some of them have, and they're really, really great contributors. I'm also really interested in that person who's willing to put themselves out there and just, willing to raise their hand. We found that there's a lot of humility, I think. Not false humility, but just real openness to learning within this cohort, within all three of them. And I think we're looking for somebody who can dedicate themselves fully to the 2 days each month, right? So just on a real tactical level, we need them to be present. That's the way that they're really going to be able to engage and grow. But I want somebody who isn't afraid to ask questions, who's willing to, be willing to accept that they can be mentored and are also a really great mentor walking in the door. And we just want to be able to foster that. And so it's not necessarily that you have to be an executive leader. This is an executive leadership program. However, I think that everybody has potential to be there. And so we're looking for somebody who just wants to engage. That's probably my number one thing, is tell me how you want to be engaged in this and what makes you excited to be able to grow as a leader.
Excellent, thank you. And then my next question is in regards to the leaders you're connecting them with. Is there sort of a standard network of leaders in each of these communities, or do you tailor the particular leaders to the makeup of your cohort? Maybe the leaders that would best.
That's a really good question. I think it's a bit of a combination of both. There's some sectors that we haven't been able to dive into as much. So for example, this coming cohort, we're going to be doing some more interactions with healthcare. Pretty difficult over the past couple of years to say, hey, can we come to your hospital? Like, that sounds really fun. And so there's some of that I think that we have planned. But we usually find out that even if, so we've gone and visited an oil rig a couple of times, and we do have some people in the energy industry that are usually part of the cohort. And just the things that they learn themselves, maybe, in terms of what questions other people are asking, can be sometimes really informative for them. Like, oh, wow, like I know this stuff every day. So it's not that we want to do something completely different. We don't want to bring them to like their own employer, right? Because that's maybe not as engaging for them. But the way that we set up the agenda is we plan out the cities, we plan out the main points that we want to hit, but then we also tend to adjust depending on what the cohort is asking for, what we see could be beneficial for them. So it's not like, it's organic as we go through it. And they've been very forward, I think, in providing feedback for us, which I appreciate. So it is, I mean, talking to like one of the people that we brought in was Gene Veter, and he's on the Water Commission. He's been in economic development for a really long time out in Western North Dakota, and he's a rancher. And so we have people who, are elected officials, work in government, are farmers themselves. And for him just to have this really well thought out, discussion of this is what it means for me as a farmer to be able to impact my state, right? It's just a great experience. So I don't know if I quite answer your question, but I think that our biggest thing is that we want people to go even in a community that they live in and say, I never knew this. I never knew this. That to me makes me super excited. When I live here, I drive by that place every single day, and I had no idea that they were doing this type of thing within our community. So,
Good question. Got one in the back.
Good morning. A couple questions for you. Is there like an age, could a college student apply for this program? Or someone that maybe is closer to retirement even that wants to make an impact, once they're retired? Do you have an age range? Just curious about that.
Yeah, so as Rachel mentioned, for a college student, that's not saying no. It would just take the right person, because you don't just become an executive leader, right? And we're really looking for someone, regardless of age, that's thirsty, that is hungry to learn and wants to engage and wants to be a part of North Dakota and North Dakota industry for years to come, and that is humble enough and excited enough and open enough to come and learn. And it doesn't really matter to us whether they are fresh out of college or whether they are 3 years from retirement. We want lifelong learners who are committed to the state of North Dakota. So I would say there's really no age requirement. We're just looking for the right individuals.
Perfect. My second question is, so what is it, I mean, what does it cost to get into this program? Because I'm sure that there's an expense related to that, being able to apply, and it is, a lengthy program, so just wanted to touch base on that.
Yeah, great question. So the total cost of everything said and done is $2,500. And what that $2,500 covers is all transportation once you arrive at whatever city we're in. So once everyone is in Minot, we take care of all the travel. That also pays for your hotel, for all of your meals, as well as any off-site visits that we do, facilitation, all of it. So it's all encompassing for that $2,500.
Perfect, thank you. Third question is, can you tell us a success story, like someone that really surprised you or has really risen to the top after participating in this program?
And I'll tell her after this that I brought her up, because she doesn't even know I'm here today, right? We had somebody in cohorts who, her name was Maria, and in the middle of the cohort, she took on, she became the president of the Catholic school system in Dickinson. And that didn't happen because she was in leadership North Dakota, but it was a major transition for her in terms of her career for that. And I've kept in contact with her. She's active in our alumni group, but immediately afterwards, she still is asking for mentorship and feedback from her cohort members. That's really, really important. And she was also one of the ones who most strongly advocated for our alumni group to be able to personally pay towards a scholarship fund for individuals who maybe are working at a nonprofit or can't afford the $2,500 to enroll. So that support structure. And so, I think that is important, that she feels like she can really thrive, and that Leadership North Dakota opened her up to things that she hadn't seen before inside of our state. I think it makes her a better school administrator. We have other individuals that are feeling much more confident. We had an individual in this last cohort that really opened up on the last day right before graduation. We had some time together to to be able to reflect on this last cohort. And she was an individual that did not actually receive support from her employer, did not believe that she was a right fit for the program and that she could truly be a leader. And she ended up leaving that organization and is working somewhere else now. But what she said is, that might have happened regardless, right? There was other factors going on, but she walked out of that cohort experience saying, I can stand right next to these other people who are very established, right? And I have the confidence to know that I can make a difference in my field and in what I'm doing. And to me, that may not show up, right? That may not show up, but the fact that she was crying and happy, about the fact that she had that support from Evan, Janya, us at the University of Mary, and this entire cohort just kind of wrapping around her and saying, you have really great potential. Like, you care a lot, right? You have a great heart. You have a servant heart. That to me is a really big win.
Thank you. I'm full of questions today.
Okay, we're going to pass the mic after this last one.
Yes, certainly. One other question I have is, I don't know if I missed it in the presentation, but how many people do you take in a cohort?
That was in my notes. I was a little nervous going through. We try to keep it between 12 and 20. Our sweet spot is right around 16, because again, we want it to be a really robust sampling. And so 16-ish, we found, gives us an opportunity to pull from multiple industries and to have ideally a couple of candidates from each industry so that we're getting different representation. But we still want it to be personal, and we want them to have the opportunity for authentic connection and relationship. And so when we get larger than that 18 to 20, we've just found that it isn't as meaningful. So ideally 16, but anywhere from about 12 to 18 is where we'll land.
Another question.
Rachel, I just wanted to say thank you for everything that Mary's done in Western North Dakota. The addition of your satellite campus in Watford City has been huge, and I was the chair of the chamber board there when that happened, and it was big for Watford City. How many of the people who apply, I mean, all the applications, how many are turned away? And, we're waiting for another shot at this.
Yeah, not everybody is accepted. We've changed up our process, I think, to be a bit more involved, and not in a bad way, just to be able to get to know people. But we probably turn away, if we accept 16, for example, we turn away probably double that. And some organizations have started to use us as their leadership development program. Leadership North Dakota is part of their process. We can't guarantee that somebody from their organization is going to get in every year, but it's great that they want to be part of that. And so we typically don't want to have more than one person from one single organization. And you know as well as I do, you know Gene, and Western North Dakota and things like that. We tend to want to kind of bring people to those different areas. And so we want the ability to find out who might not know about everything that we have going on. So yeah, we turn away probably about double, and we're anticipating it'll be at least that this year. But the great thing about that is that if somebody is not accepted, that doesn't mean that they cannot reapply again the next year. That's okay. You can have somebody from the same organization come in the following year. It's not like you say, oh, you had somebody from, X organization, you can't get somebody in next year. It's not about that. But then we also have opportunities to provide leadership development on a smaller scale. If it is something that they're still interested in, we have other opportunities that are public facing that they can still do.
Good question. I was looking at your curriculum this morning online, and I noticed that there's a section that focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. You also have the opportunity to influence some change here statewide, being a statewide leadership program, and we continue to see that there's an age or a wage gap, right? If we're talking about gender, and if you add race to the conversation, it's even wider. Our legislature continues to be the least diverse in the country, and what an opportunity, right? So my question is, what are you doing to foster or ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion in this process itself to make sure that you have, or that you are accurately depicting all the faces and ideas or influencers in North Dakota?
This past cohort is, I think, a good example of that. There was a lot of people who were not born and raised in North Dakota. And yet we're very committed to staying here and, growing their organizations and so forth. And I think that brings in a different perspective of things. We had individuals coming from very rural populations and, people coming in from, cities with millions of people, and now living in, on a reservation in North Dakota. So I do think that we look at individuals who can bring in varying perspectives, as Mark said, but it also has spurred on some great opportunities with one of our our first cohort member works for BIA, and so now we're helping him put together an inspiration tour, is what he's calling it, for individuals within his community that are high risk, low support individuals and students and families. And so how do we actually support that from a university perspective on helping them understand different opportunities and thriving and some basic skill sets? If somebody can take a couple of e-commerce trainings from us to learn about how they might be able to do some things in their home to run an organization, that's helpful. But that only happened because that individual was in Leadership North Dakota, that we were able to have that really good conversation. So we want diversity. We want diversity in backgrounds, work experience, and everything in between. So that is taken into account, I think, but it's also taken into account to what types of experiences we're putting in front of them as well. There's an opportunity there. And so a good example of that is we haven't had a really great focus on rural North Dakota in the past couple of cohorts, and that's something that we're going to be doing here. That's been a focus of Mark's, because we do want a lot of activity happening, and in some smaller communities during COVID, it was really hard to do that. Organizations weren't as open. And so we're also looking for diversity in that way too, so that we're not just focusing on what's happening at the largest organization in Fargo.
Yeah. Good
Right.
point. And I think you do bring up a good point, is that diversity looks different. It's not just gender or race or age. There's a lot of ways that you can be diverse in your selection process. Go ahead, Mike.
Awesome. So I know we've been talking a lot about leadership ND, but looking at the workforce development side, do you partner primarily with companies, or are individuals able to enter into that on their own if they want to upskill themselves?
Both, right? So most often it will be a business or a company. We've done, we've had different cities from across the state of North Dakota for their chamber, whether that's a public-facing training for entrepreneurs or people in the community or for their department. But it could be either or, anything in between. We thrive on small group settings, and so if we can combine them, if they need to be one-on-one, if there are a series of trainings, certificates, kind of you name it, it's all fully customizable, and no group. Actually, today, for example, we're doing a virtual training on peer-to-manager transition, and there is one participant, I should say, from EERC up in Grand Forks, who will have a one-on-one opportunity with one of our facilitators on that peer-to-manager transition. So no group, too big or small.
I will say that organizations are, a lot of our work does happen with organizations that are looking for workforce development for both recruitment and retainment of their workforce. That's really, really big. Some of them want it specialized just to their organization, and some actually want to combine with others.
So sort of along that line, is there, maybe describe the mix of small business, large business amongst a lot of your partners?
We've had some organizations that are smaller than the people in this room that we're working with, and we've also done larger trainings, like we did some for the state, that had over 200 in the room. I tend not to want those 200 sessions because it ends up being a lecture situation, which isn't quite our thing in workforce. And so we tend to like the facilitation model with that. And a lot of times what we do, we find it most effective is if it's done in a series. We did something out west where we had engineers work with non-engineers. That was one of their core issues. The communication style, completely different. And they just weren't able to connect. And you do something as basic, like everybody's done like personality assessments, right? Like we get that. You can use that just to kind of set level ground, just then to have really great conversations, right? It's not to find out what personality you are in whatever assessment. It's really about, I recognize I'm far more black and white than the guy over in marketing, right? That guy in marketing, he loves the color, right? And so how do we actually be productive and efficient and effective? And so that tends to not happen within a 3-hour session. It usually happens within a couple sessions together.
Good question. Going back to the leadership program, has there been a surprising outcome? So when you develop these programs, you have goals in mind and probably a preconceived notion of maybe how it's going to be digested and what the outcomes might be. But has there been anything that has really surprised you, or and this might be piggybacking off of an earlier question, but
Well, Rachel has a little bit better historical context. I would say everything that I've experienced and heard, that happens every cohort, right? Because every cohort's just a little bit different. Again, we have our curriculum, but it's not canned, right? And we have our experiences, but they're not canned. They're all tailored. And so I think the opportunity to be nimble and to have those opportunities to be organic provides, right, a number of outcomes. For example, this last cohort came to us and they said, we want more time to talk to one another because we just like hanging out with one another, right? And it really became, a group of friends that were also there to accomplish that goal. Whereas other groups are going to say, hey, we want to focus more on this industry, we want to focus more on these opportunities or these experiences. And so I would say on some level, there is some of that in every single cohort. Rachel might have better historical context or an example, but.
I'm continually surprised in one of the best ways that North Dakota businesses are so willing to talk to people that are outside of their industry or maybe even working for a competitor and sharing their warts and their issues. When we bring people into an organization for them to be able to talk about whatever topic it may be, they're not always showing just their best face. They want to show what's really cool about their organization and the exciting things that they're doing, and we want innovation and what is their strategy and all of that, and that all happens. But there's so many business leaders that will interact with this group and really just gonna say, here's my struggles, here's what's not going well, this is how I've tried to tackle it, this is what's not been successful. And I think it's so great to hear those things and for them to be so vulnerable with our leadership group. Because then it provides us, and we don't ask them to be, but they are. And I think that's such a tribute to what type of environment we have here, where they're willing to do that. And they just so actively listen. So.
thank you. Ross.
Kind of following your answer to that question, what kind of struggles have you guys experienced running the program?
COVID.
What?
That was, some of them are really, really easy. We used to run this program September through March. Well, you're hitting all the bad travel months, the entire time. So sometimes we've had to modify really small things. Let's start in January and run through June, right? I don't know that. And there's some people from UMary, and maybe they'll be like, no, Rachel, remember you said that was really hard. This program has been so much fun to build. It's been so much fun. COVID was actually, I think, our biggest struggle, in all honesty. The other things are just logistic things that you can figure out. We're finding out that, some of us are better direction-oriented people when we're taking a group of people. So now we're going to take the UMary people bus, the people mover bus, so we're all in one place, right? So somebody doesn't get lost along the way. We really haven't had those challenges because we found that there's such a hunger for this type of program. And we've been very open to feedback from our participants, and they've been very helpful in providing it, so.
I would say the biggest struggle is the feedback, right? Because all of these people are, they're really, really passionate and they have fantastic ideas, and you can't boil the ocean, right? You can't do everything all the time. And so I would say the toughest thing is whittling it down and trying to continue to get feedback and improve our experiences without losing the authenticity that we really strive for, which is a really good problem to have, right? That's a really good struggle. And it is something that is enjoyable. As Rachel said, it doesn't really feel like work, which is really fun.
Thanks, Ross. Again, back to I was doing my research, and I noticed that you must do a book study. Is that right? Can you talk a little bit about the book study and why you chose the book you use?
We've evolved in this. And so this past year, we used 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So who's read that by Covey? It's not a new book, right? Not a new book. And when we first looked at it, it's like, really? Is this really going to be it? And the good thing about some older texts is that they're still really relevant. I think you can find a lot of examples where that's true. And we found that out. It also, the text, if any of you have talked to Evan and Janya about Covey, they're pretty strong advocates of what he does. But what's been really kind of fun is their passion in bringing forward that curriculum and following up and saying, okay, we talked about Think Win-Win last month, right? How did that actually work for you? And a lot of times they're like, I totally failed in doing this. Like, I ended up just being like wanting to do it my way, and what does that look like? And all of that. But we're using that again. We're not necessarily married to that forever. But the one thing that we are doing this coming year is that we're also incorporating The Dignity of Grace, which is a book about Sister Thomas Welder. The previous cohorts have really wanted, they've wanted as much servant leadership as they could get. And so I think that Sister Thomas provides a really, really great example of what that looks like. And so instead of making this a memorial to her, we're actually going to be talking about business examples and things that happened during her tenure as president, and what that actually looks like to be a leader in many different capacities.
Thank you. I'm going to ask now for the clicker back so I can advance this guy. Okay. It's time for our last question. So if you're new to 1 Million Cups, we wrap up every single presentation by asking the same thing. And I'm going to let Ross take it away today.
Again, thank you guys very much for presenting today. It's a great topic. And the last question always is, what can we as the 1 Million Cups community do to help you guys succeed?
We want to know how we can better serve the community. We cannot, as an institution in higher ed, be the ivory tower. That's the last thing that we can ever be, and we work actively against ever being that. But we want to know what your real challenges are in the business setting. That is so informative to us to make sure that we are reacting and being innovative in the right way. We want to actually know what the real challenges are, and that's what our conversations, that's what Mark and I focus on the majority of our time. But also, too, of course, we want to work with all of you on identifying really great people. Maybe it's one of you, right? That can be part of this program. We want to be able to promote it. It's a great service to to North Dakota, but the University of Mary can't do it unless people actually want to participate in it. So we just want to know, how is it that we can help, because we have such support as an institution to try new things and not to get stuck in bureaucracy, and to see like what we can do. And so we've got legs and we want to use them. We want to run. And so we just really want this community to understand there's a lot going on in Bismarck-Mandan that we can support maybe in ways just beyond the traditional degree that everybody knows us as.
Yeah, we want to know, what can you do to help us? You can let us know how we can help you. Because for my department specifically, right, I have a group of people that are hungry and interested in continuing to help people and to help retain and train and upskill and reskill and recruit quality people. We want to keep North Dakota's best in North Dakota, and we're very proud, we're very excited about the curriculum that we have and the offerings that we do have, but we want to continue to grow, and we want to continue to find ways to add value to our community, and to be a player in any way. And so when we say, like, please reach out, feel free, like, it's not a canned, slide at the end. Like, if you want to have coffee, sincerely, 701-351-515. Kayla, what's my number? 51515, 5151? I'm sorry.
5151.
5151. Give me a call, right? Send an email.
Did anybody get that?
Yeah.
701-355-5151. That's,
Yep.
okay.
So seriously, reach out. We'd love to have a cup of coffee.
Or catch him afterwards and get his number.
Yeah. Either or.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, Lakin.
Okay, so we've got a full calendar coming up. We've got Eden Med Spa Just for You Studios and Cappuccino on Collins for the next few weeks. So be sure to join us then. If you want to apply to present, you can go to 1millioncups/bizman. Oh, just kidding. There it is. I was right. I was doing it. It was good. Okay, /bizman to apply to present. It wasn't that difficult of a process. Right? Yeah, and we've got some volunteers on hand to take great care of you if you do choose to do that. So with that, I'll send you on your way. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Thanks for being here.